Why is the dollar destroying America? Now, at first glance, this probably sounds like a somewhat paradoxical question. After all, there's no question that the dollar has granted the United States an immense amount of power and influence around the world. And yet, this incredible strength is actually something of a double-edged sword. Behind the scenes, the dollar has actually unleashed forces that are quietly eroding the very fabric of our country. But to understand how, we first need to look at what makes it so powerful to begin with. As the world's reserve currency, the US dollar is constantly in demand. Countries around the globe need it to trade, to pay off debts, and to maintain their own financial stability. And as a result, this demand has driven up the value of the dollar. But this artificially high demand eventually makes American goods more expensive and less competitive on the global market. And while there's certainly other factors that led to America losing its competitive edge, like taxes and regulations, the dominance of the dollar within this system has helped to decimate America's industrial base over the course of several decades. Now, this would be bad enough, but to make matters even worse, the rise of the dollar as the world's reserve currency has encouraged one set of reckless policies after another. With the ability to print money at will and a seemingly infinite demand for dollars around the world, the U.S. government has indulged in a decades-long spending spree, financing wars, social programs, and bailouts with no end in sight. And the result has been an incredible concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few. Not because they've done a good job providing goods and services, but because they know how to manipulate the system. Those who have access to the newly printed money first, like Wall Street, the military-industrial complex, and the federal government itself, have thrived under this system. Meanwhile, the rest of the country has been hollowed out and left behind. In fact, the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency has in many ways begun to destabilize American society and politics. On the left, large swaths of the public blames capitalism itself as the source of the problem, despite the fact that this surge in income inequality isn't being driven by free markets, but rather by inflationary monetary policy. Meanwhile, the right is increasingly made up of those who have suffered under this system rather than the politically connected beneficiaries of it. But as bad as that is, the situation is actually kind of worse, because the deeper issue lies in the nature of fiat money itself. Fiat money is just paper because it doesn't have anything backing it like gold or silver. And as a result, the value of the dollar is based on nothing more than trust and confidence in the good old federal government. And when that trust begins to wane, the entire system is at risk of collapse. So what can be done to stop this? Well, first and foremost, you need to elect politicians that aren't constantly printing more money to finance their little pet projects. But if you really want to get to the underlying cause of all of this, both the fiat currency and these artificial international systems which have been set up, you need to return to sound money. That doesn't mean you're going to be carrying around bags of gold or silver in order to engage in commerce. No, it just means that paper dollar that you use actually means something, because it's tied to something of inherent value as opposed to the promises of the federal government. Do you have a why you would like us to answer? Go into the link in the description and pose your question, and maybe the next Why Minutes will be dedicated to you.